Good morning, Kinder Scholars. Today we will be doing our day 18 enrichment lesson. It is going to be meant to be viewed on Friday, May 15th, and we are going to be using the book that we used yesterday called Our Show. Yesterday, scholars, we read this book and we focused on answering questions. We focused on characters, settings, conflict and solution, all the things that we have learned in our first grade fiction elements unit. Today, what we're going to be doing is reading this book and talking about the beginning, middle, and end. Now, parents, I'm going to be using the worksheet that we've used before. This isn't necessarily in the packet, in your Kinder Reading Comp packet. But if you did pick up the new Kinder Reading Comp packet listed May 1st through the 21st, you will have a spare one of these listed under day 4. This is just something I thought of this morning putting together the video, but again, this is not something that is going to be required for your scholar to fill in. You do have an extra one in your new packet listed May 1st to 21st that we will not be using. I repeated a lot of the worksheets from day 1 up until what we've done from the last packet in this new packet. So feel free if you have it, but if you don't, that is perfectly fine. All your scholars will need is someone to talk to about the beginning, middle, and end of the story and this video. So remember, scholars, when we retell a story, which is what we're working on taking everything that we've learned during Unit 8 and talking about how we put that in a retell. When we retell a story, we're telling the story from the beginning, the middle, and the end. We need to include important things like the characters, the settings, or the setting, key details, and major events. Remember, key details and major events are important to the story for the story to make sense. If we leave them out, the story wouldn't make sense when we're retelling it. So today we're going to be working on using the beginning, middle, and end, words like first, next, and last to retell a story. And again, we're going to be using this one called Our Show. It's something we're familiar with. Some of you might be able to read this on your own, and that's wonderful. You can read it with Miss T, you can read it on your own, or you can just follow along as Miss T reads it. All right, let's jump in, scholars. We can put on a show. We're going to stop right there because guess what? That's the beginning of our book. That's what's happening first. First, they're going to put on a show. So I'm going to get my pen, and in the beginning, I'm going to write first who are the characters, scholar? Turn and tell somebody, who are the characters? Let's be very specific about it. Who are the characters? Tell someone who's the characters. Okay, now that you know the characters are the boy and the girl, put that in a sentence saying what the beginning is. First, the and do what? Go ahead and tell them. Okay, come back to Miss T. So you should have said something like, first, the boy and girl put on a show. That's the thing that they did first. I'll go ahead and show you how I wrote it. Parents, you can stop the video if you are having your child write it. Again, it's not required, but if you were able to find the extra day 4 worksheet that looks like this, the graphic organizer in our May 1st through 21st packet, then they can certainly write it with Ms. T. If not, that's completely fine as well. All right, so you see in the beginning, we have first, the boy and girl put on a show. Remember your finger spaces as you write, scholars, a capital to start our sentence, and a period to know we've ended it. Now, you may not need this, what Ms. T wrote. You may be able to sound out these words on your own. Feel free to try that and challenge yourself as well. Okay, we're going to come back to Miss T and we're going to keep going. So we know in the beginning the girl and boy are putting on a show. Sometimes we might have to read a couple pages in the beginning to find out what's going on first. Sometimes we can figure it out right on the very first page that we read. It just depends on the book that we're reading and what they tell us. All right, let's go on. We can sing in our show. We can dance in our show. We can act in our show. We can juggle in our show. We can take bows in our show. Let's stop there and talk about what has happened in the middle of the book. Scholars, what have you heard Miss T say that they're doing in the middle of the story? We know in the beginning the boy and girl are putting on a show. Next, what do they do? Go ahead and use the sentence, next the boy and girl, and tell somebody next to you. Go ahead and tell them what's happening in the middle of the story. All right, come back to Miss T. So scholars, the pictures help us know what's happening next. Next, we see that the boy and girl sing, dance, act, juggle, and take bows in their show. You don't have to write all of that, that's a lot. But if you want to write it, you certainly can. Under the middle column, we're going to write next, because that's what we say after we say first. The boy and girl. Now, you can say sing, dance, juggle, act in their show. But what Miss T is going to say is that they perform. When you're in a show and you're doing things for somebody, you're putting on a performance. And the boy and the girl are performing. So I'm going to write next, the boy and girl hammer, E-R, F, or, O-R, M. Next, the boy and girl perform, that's a fancy word that we just learned how to spell, in their show. All right, let me go ahead and show you what I wrote. Again, families, if your scholar is not writing this on the graphic organizer, that's fine. They can write it on any sheet of paper. They can write it on a whiteboard. They don't have to write it all. Feel free to pause the video so that your scholar can write it if they are writing. All right, scholars, so you see in the middle box, we have our beginning, which we've already done. Now we're in the middle. We're in the middle of the box, in the box in the center. And we wrote next, the boy and girl perform, that's the word Miss T sounded out, in their show. They're performing. Now remember, you don't have to write perform. You can challenge yourself and write next, the boy and girl, and you can use the story to find the words juggle, act, dance, or sing. You could write those words instead of perform. This is your paper, and you get to be the boss of what you want to write. If you do want to write what Miss T wrote, she's showing you that now. But if you don't want to write perform and you want to find those words, go ahead. And then we wrote in their show because that's what they're doing it in. Okay, we're going to come back to Miss T. You'll notice this lesson, scholars, you get to kind of be the boss. And that's because guess what? This is going to be our last lesson before we take our practice test. This is the last lesson of Unit 8. And I want you guys to use everything that you've learned. You're smart, smart, smart kiddos. I know you can do this. All right. So we know in the beginning they were going to put on a show. Next, they performed. They did a lot of different things. Let's see what happens at the end of the book. We can be stars in our show. All we need is you. So scholars, what happened at the end of the story? What did the boy and girl realize? You can say last, the boy and girl. Go ahead and tell somebody what happened at the end of the story. Okay, come back to Miss T. So, at the end of the book, they said, all we need is you. And they're asking their friends to come into the story. So, I'm going to write the word last. That tells me what happens at the end. Last, they asked others to be in their show. So at the very end, they asked other people to be in their show. They realized they needed other people. You could have wrote last, they needed others in their show, or last, they had their friends join in the show, whatever you choose to do. Ms. T is going to write that last, they asked others to be in their show. Again, parents, you can pause this video and have your scholars sound out the words on their own to practice their spelling skills and their writing abilities. But if not, I'm going to show you my inbox real quick, scholars. Parents, feel free to pause the video. And scholars, again, you can write this either on the graphic organizer, single piece of paper, or you can just tell somebody next to you. All right, so you'll see in the end, I put last with that capital, finger space, they. I didn't have enough room for asked up here, so I wrote to the next line, asked others to be in their show. You see Miss T has spaces to separate her words. She has a period at the end. And scholars, if I didn't have room for the word to be here, I just went to the next line. When we write, we don't want to break up words. We want to keep our words together. So if there's not going to be enough room on the line, you can certainly use the next line beneath it, and that helps you keep all the letters for that word together. Go ahead and write what happened at the end of the story. All right, come back to Miss T. All right, so there we have our graphic organizer filled out, and we've read the book. We can now use this to tell the story much quicker. Although this is a short book, we can use our retell to know what happened in the story and tell our family or friends who may not have heard us read the story or may not be able to read the book on their own. Using this graphic organizer, we can tell them what happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Watch how quick it is. First, the boy and girl put on a show. Next, the boy and girl perform in their show. Last, they asked their friends to be in the show with them. Do you see how short that was, how quick that was? When you retell a story, it's usually short because you're summarizing what happened in the book. You're not reading every single word like we did. You're just giving your friend or your family a little bit of information about the book. But again, you're including your characters, your setting, your key details, and your main events. Did we include the characters in our retell? Yes, we did. We said that there was a boy and a girl. Did we include our setting? Yeah, we said that they were doing their show. Their show is their setting. Did we include key details and main events? Yeah, we talked about how they performed in their show, they were going to put on a show, and how they asked their friends to be in the show. If we never mentioned that the boy and girl were going to put on a show, it wouldn't make sense that they were performing for their friends or asking their friends to be in a show with them. If we just said the boy and girl were juggling and acting and singing and then asked their friends to be in the show to be in their show, you'd be like, well, wait, where's their show? But we talked about them putting on a show at the beginning. If we never said that they performed, it wouldn't make sense what happened. We would say they put on a show, they asked their friends to be in the show. We kind of skipped over quite a bit of the book. And at the end, if we didn't say that they asked their friends, then we'd be like, well, wait, what happened after they did all their singing and dancing? What happened after they did all their performing? So you need all the key details and main events from the beginning, middle, and end for the story to flow, for the story to go together, for the story to make sense. If you include all those important pieces of information like we did today, then you're able to retell a story in a very quick way that makes sense for somebody who may not have been able to read the book. That's the end of today's lesson. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And the next time you see me, scholars, on video, we will be doing our practice test and finishing up with our Unit 8. Again, have a wonderful day and a great weekend. Bye-bye.